Hello, everyone, and welcome to Vilnius Tech Leads. We have a bunch of people here live in the office, and we have a bunch of people watching us on YouTube online. Welcome to all. For those of you who are not familiar with what is Vilnius Tech Leads, let me give you a short introduction. Vilnius Tech Leads is a meetup group where we discuss technical leadership. We believe that leaders are not born, they learn to become leaders. During each of our meetups has a theme. Today's theme is accessibility. Most of us here build technologies, and we want those technologies to be used by as many people as possible. And tools like closed captioning, keyboard shortcuts, and many others help those technologies to be accessed by as many people as possible. So today we're going to discuss accessibility, and we'll try to become better at it together. As usual, we have 3 speakers who will tell their stories related to accessibility. And those of you who are here in the Vinted HQ, I will invite you to stay here, chat with each other about accessibility, and enjoy the snacks and drinks that we have here. The 3 speakers we have today, that's Glaffira, Alius, and Jurij. And first, let me introduce Glaffira, who planned to join us here in the office, but couldn't, so she'll be joining us online. Welcome.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me and you see me. Really want to be with you there now, offline. I mean, like, it should be the 3rd offline event after the COVID for me, but no, not this time. Yeah, thanks for having me. So let's continue with the topic. I'm going to talk with you about the accessibility kind of introduction for managers, for leaders. So it will be more from the web development perspective, I would say, because I am a web developer. But let me introduce myself a little bit better. Yeah, so my name is Glaffira. I live now in Vilnius. Currently, I am in Minsk because I'm originally from Belarus. I work as a front-end team lead and also as an accessibility lead in a company called SpurIT. We have office in Lithuania now. It's cool. Yeah, now we have like 2 offices in Minsk and in Vilnius. Yeah, and we work with Shopify. We build e-commerce experience with Shopify system. And as long as Shopify is providing the accessibility ideas, they require the accessibility in their terms for shops. We will do it too. We will learn and we'll try to share our experience with you, with everyone. So yeah, also I am a proud member of the Women Tech Makers community. It's a Google community, and they help women to be more visible in technologies. Yeah, so like me, I am now with you, like I'm speaking, so it's so cool. And I want to inspire other girls to do the same because we have a lot of things to share. Yeah, you can subscribe me on Twitter, and actually everywhere you can find me as Glafira Zhur. So just follow me and let's be friends. And of course, you can ask me any questions anywhere. one more thing. I am an kind of initiator of the Accessibility Club Minsk community. It's an official part of the famous Accessibility Club community. Also, I am teaching at the digital accessibility course. It's in Russian, and if you know Russian, if you are eager to know more about accessibility, so you can join our stream. It will start in February. And also, I am a program committee member of some local Minsk meetups. And now we are not local, like now we are online. So even if you want to speak somewhere, we're planning to start our meetups in December. Cool. Let's go back, get back to the business. This is me, at this picture, me feeding my team with all the accessibility, trying to involve as many people as I can. So I am sometimes maybe annoying with all my accessibility stuff, but still I'm trying to involve like everyone, like designers, content makers, developers, of course. So everyone should know accessibility. I even asked my team to check the W3C accessibility course. You can check it too, just Google it. So it's cool and it's free, and it gives you some understanding of the empathy and of the accessibility, like the whole idea of it. So we're going to talk, of course, about accessibility today. If you don't know, and for me, accessibility it's not about the people with disabilities, about to give them opportunity to use our software or our websites. It's not about this. It's more about giving an access to everyone, of course. And like building accessible interfaces, we're doing a great favor to us in future. For example, I'm not sure I will see in a good way in future, like in my old years. So I just prefer to do something today to build an accessible interfaces, the accessible interfaces. But why do you care? Like, if you don't do accessibility now, maybe you should start today, thinking of future. And there are some motivators for me, and my own first motivator is people, because in our world for now, it's the World Health Organization statistics. We have 15% of people with some kind of disabilities. So it's a huge number. It's 1 billion and almost 200 million people. And they sometimes they even can't do something simple which we can do. So I give you a lot of links here like everywhere in my slides with some statistics, with some reports on digital accessibility lawsuits in 2020, because the number of lawsuits increases, and because of the COVID, of course. And there are also the research from the famous web accessibility in Mind community. They took 1 million of websites and they tested them, and they understood that only 1% from the 1 million of the websites is accessible. So 1%, not one, like 15, 20, just one. Yeah, so it's really cool to check such kind of surveys and see the state of the accessibility in web. Also, this number does not include, like this 15%, does not include people who are has some temporary disabilities. For example, you broke your arm. I wanted to say heart, no, arm. And if it's your like the main arm, for me it's left one. So it could be a challenge for you to use websites to do some usual things. Also, it doesn't include the external conditions, like the weather, the lightness of the sun. So, for example, it's pretty common to try to see something on your screen when the sun is shining, and you're like, "Oh my God, I can't see anything," and it's difficult to find the elements to use. So, yeah, it's all about the contrast, like poor contrast for your resources. Also, some conditions like you're driving a car and you need to use the navigation system. It's also the accessibility case. Of course, we'll get older, and we need to think of us in future. Yeah, and the most like common case for me is my mouse and the low battery in it. So I always have this trouble, and like almost every month. And yeah, and I have no like other batteries, so I just trying to use the keyboard to access all the features I need, and you can't imagine how inaccessible they are. Cool. So first, people, and the second strong motivation is the legislation. We all in our accessibility community, we all hope that the legislation will develop and it will grow, and the requirements will grow, and the accessibility will be like requirement. So in future, I mean. For example, in USA, the legislation works now. If you're working with the clients from USA, you maybe faced this, that you need to be accessible at some level. Also in Europe, they're developing now the environment to make everyone in the digital to be accessible by 2025, and I really expect this year it will be a huge mess. I hope so, at least, because I'm an accessibility expert. I want more work for me. Yeah, so we'll see how it will go, but yeah, I hope everyone will be at least aware about this Accessibility Act. Also in Canada, it works already. I work now for a client from Canada who are buying the soft from the European company, and this soft is not accessible. But the Canadians, they can't buy this soft because it's not accessible. So we decided to build accessibility there, and you can't imagine how difficult it is because we have a lot of legacy there. So this soft is pretty huge, and it was built for I don't know, 6 years or something like this. So now it's a lot of work there. Yeah, and also I am close to the Russian Federation legislation, so they are updating their accessibility standards. So yeah, we are in a good stream, I would say. Yeah, so in case you have a client who wants accessibility, and in Europe it's more a case than in Belarus or in Russia, you need to know all this, and you need to check the requirements, how required they are. So yeah, please check. Also, after the COVID, not after, we're still in this situation, we faced a lot of troubles with accessibility of web resources because we're staying at home. We're trying to do everything from home. So I can say that some of you are facing sometimes the accessibility troubles, and especially when services are trying to update their interfaces and everything goes wrong. And even if they had the accessibility before, now they are trying in a rush to build something new, and they break their accessible interfaces and do something accessible, and it causes a lot of complaints from the users who are already familiar with the interface. Yeah, so the situation is forcing us to think more about it. Let me show you a quick example. What I mean when I talk about the accessibility, just to, I don't know, to inspire you. Yeah, so I chose the Topa Centra's website. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with it. What can we see here? For example, I want to buy this, what is this, like oh my god, I forgot the word. Let's say phone. Smartphone. No, it's not a smartphone. It's a tablet. Yeah, so I want to buy it, and now I have no mouse. Like, I have only keyboard, and like, I'm sighted user. Everything is okay with me. Like, I have my arms with me and so on. So I just have no mouse. So I'm trying to do something with the keyboard. Now I am pressing the tab key, and actually, I can see something like the color of the links at the top of the page are changing, is changing. But it's this is all what's happening here. And then nothing happens. Like, I don't see where my focus is. So I am pressing the tab key. I'm moving through the interface. Let's try to, yeah. So you see how the page is scrolling up, down. So my focus is somewhere at the page, but I have no idea where. And I can't even imagine what will be like, oh my God, what's happening if I press some, I don't know, something, because I using tab, I go through the like focusable elements activating, which I can activate. So if I press enter or space, something is happening, but I even don't know what will happen. So yeah, and this is one of the most common troubles with the websites. Like, you don't see the focus state. The focus state is invisible. So and it fixes. I can fix it with only one like row deleted from the styles of the website. It's called outline, and here in my I deleted it at the other tab. So let's check what's happening with it. Let me just, yeah. So now it's nice, nice, I would say, but designers won't be agree with me. A nice dark contrast border around the focusable elements. So I see my focus state. It's not that ugly as designers sometimes think. So maybe it's a good idea to, to not to delete this style. So it's much easier now to navigate through the web page. Still, for example, now I am at the first element of the menu, but before this element, there is a button which opens the whole list of the categories on this website. And this button is not accessible from the keyboard, like, at all. So I can't get it from the keyboard. So I won't navigate through the categories. So it's the second trouble at the websites, something which should be accessible because it works from link. I can hover, I can choose some element. It works from with mouse, but it doesn't work from a keyboard. And in this case, if it doesn't work from a keyboard, it doesn't work for many accessibility tools. For many tools which provide access to this website for the people with disabilities. For example, screen readers, which reads the whole content for the blind person, for example. So if the interface is not accessible from a keyboard, it's not accessible for screen reader too. most of the cases. Yeah, so just a small example. And the other thing here is I can go to the to card button still, and I can press it and it will work. Yeah, anyway, something is happening here. So a lot of things without any user ask. Yeah, and then I want to go lower at the page, like to read something about this phone. Let's pretend I can't see the content. I can only navigate with the keyboard through it, and the screen reader will read me the content. But then it will read something, I don't know what. And now I am in this area with the widget, some widget added to the website with JavaScript. It's not built, it's kind of iframe, I would say. And my focus is stuck there. So I can't move it anywhere from this area with this like button. I don't know. It's kind of a bank something. Yeah. So the focus is stuck. So I can't move farther because yeah, my keyboard is stuck. Yeah, so this is the like a lot of problems at this website also, but yeah, I won't show you, of course, every every problem. Yeah, so let's continue with the presentation. 1 second. Yeah, not that stuck. Yeah, cool. So a small example. So to understand all these troubles, all which user can face, it's actually a lot of information. Without this information, you can't even plan something, you can't build something. So you need some guidelines. You need to understand which problems are which problems you can face on the web interfaces, even not only web interfaces. These guidelines are working for many other types of interfaces. For example, like if it's a native operational system, like some program software, native software for the operational system, or some mobile software. So the guidelines are almost the same. If you want to know more, you should check the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. These guidelines are the source for all the legislation. So for all the laws and so on, they all refers these guidelines. So for now, the version is 2.1, the working version. The next one is already existing and it's ready to use, and we're using it everywhere because they improved some requirements. For example, about the visible focus, it wasn't the requirement before, but now it is, and it should be like contrast, it should be visible, and so on. So yeah, and also they are working on the third version. So yeah, guidelines, and the simple way to read these guidelines. Also, there are authoring practices for designers, for developers. They give you an understanding of on how some components should look like, and the keyboard navigation too. So when you're building the project, the key figures would be the product or project manager, and you should start now grow your interest in accessibility, and you should research a lot, define the scope, like if you're building a product or just a project or just a component. Find the resources, of course. It's always about money and about people who know accessibility. You need to develop the policies for your company if you're at the start of it. You need to plan project with accessibility in mind. Also, watch the implementation, like watch the developers and designers every second, I would say. Hire the accessibility professionals. This is not that easy one. Yeah, and organize the internal trainings and engage people with disabilities. It's the most difficult, but still possible. Just try to find the communities in your cities. Also, as a designer, you should follow the accessibility requirements, provide the accessibility scenarios, accessible, create the responsive and adaptable designs, build an accessibility components library, follow the components best practice, and provide the instructions for the developers. Sometimes they need these instructions, like really, because sometimes there are some invisible texts at the design or so on. So yeah, and as a manager, you should check the designers too. For developers, it would be discuss the solution with the designers and at the very first seconds of reviewing the design. It's really important. Also check the requirements. If you need to build some component, you need to go to the best practice and check first if there is this component or not, and if it is there. So just use the practices from there because they are the user is comfortable with this behavior of the component. You need to try at least to implement the accessible components and follow these practices and test everything like at the development stage. Even like you can even provide some code testing and so on. Yeah, and also QI is the big part of the process. They are testing everything, like especially the integration testing and the E2E testing are like really useful. And also they test everything manually and they build a final report on some feature on all the whole project. There are some cool templates for the reports. Yeah, so I won't stay here for a long time. First, you need to check the keyboard accessibility and check this list and try to go through your web resource with keyboard and you will see something really nice. Yeah. Also, you need to check all the labels if all the companies have labels, especially that small icon buttons, because we always forgot about them. They should have text too, like invisible, but still accessible. Also, you need to check color and contrast, and this is actually a designer's task. And the page structure, because the screen reader user, for example, they follow the page structure, navigating through it with one key, they can go through all the headings on the page. So it's really important to check it. Also, it's really tempting to use some one line of code plugins. They provide accessibility, but please don't use them. And check the video I leave for you on this slide. And these accessible plugins, like they insert a lot of their own code to your website for some like their own guess. So, and they can make the experience of the user more harmful. So it will be really bad to use the interface. And sometimes they are inaccessible like itself. Yeah, so just as managers, just don't do this, like don't make this decision to use the one-line code plugin. It won't build you accessibility. Also, I suggest you to use the tools. You can do it like really now. Screen readers, there are free ones, there are pre-built ones. Also, operational system settings. You can check them. You can change the color contrast. Color scheme, like high contrast, for example, and you'll see a lot of interesting things at your websites. Yeah, browser settings, because in a browser we can emulate some type of, for example, color blindness and so on. And also use please keyboard to manually test your resources, and also change the zoom the web page, so you'll see how robust is it. Also, I give you a lot of resources to check your website like automatically. You need to only install them as a plugins for Chrome, for Mozilla, for Firefox, or just use the build inside the browsers, DevTools, some like the Lighthouse, the instrument called Lighthouse. You can check your website like now and really fast. For some things they can count, because not everything we can check like automatically. We still need to do something manually. Yeah, also checklists. I provide you three, the most famous, and they are interesting to read. Yeah, so check them. And also there are content guidelines, because now it's kind of trend to write the content in an accessible way. For example, don't use the word like enable, but use the turned on or activate, something like this. Like not everyone can press your button or click your button. They can activate it definitely in many ways. This is pretty much all I wanted to say. Thank you for your attention. Yeah, and I hope we still have some time for questions, but not sure.
Thank you, Glaffira. If you want to ask questions, you can ask them by raising your hand or by putting them in the YouTube comments. The first question we have is, you talked about the roles of designers, developers, and you also told us that you could hire an accessibility professional. Like, what would the accessibility professional do? Like, would they just walk through the website and check everything? What would be the role of that person?
I have this role now, so I can definitely say that yes, they will go through your website and they will provide you with provide you some tips and tricks how to fix this component, that component, how to fix it in your environment, because it's we don't send you a link and don't say like do like this and everything will be okay. We are trying to check everything around the component and suggest some solution which will work for your environment. So yeah, this one, of course, and also I think we should be a kind of inspiration for the developers, designers, and so on, for everyone, because yeah, we show you something and you're like, oh my God, I even didn't think about it. So it's so cool. So I like this part the most, like to inspire everyone who is involved in the project.
Okay, thanks. Do you have any other questions? No more questions. Thank you again, Glaffira.
Thank you.
And now I invite our next speaker, Alius, to the stage.
I'm wondering how it will be heard. Right, can you hear me? All good? All right, my slides. Oh, now I can hear me on that one. So I was a bit nervous before coming here on floor, but now when I see your faces and cameras, I'm a bit in a panic mode. No worries. All right, my name is Alius. I am a product design manager for Growth Domain, and I will be talking about accessibility. I will start with this quote, which was written by one blogger with visual impairments. She was once asked, why does she care about fashion if she can't see? And in her reply, I find one interesting hidden perspective. All right, let's talk about accessibility. The way I shaped this keynote, it will be an update about where Vinted is currently, what's in progress, what are the near future plans. I have mixed up with some slides from surveys and other sources. And I will go with the first one. There was a big survey done by Level Access, thousands of various size of corporations from all industries. And the first insight is it's not late to join the accessibility party. Cool. So Vinted is a marketplace, a second-hand fashion marketplace, which allows people to trade their clothes, shoes, jewelry, beauty items, home decor. And the way we had been designing and developing Vinted apps, they required both people abilities to see and touch to make a purchase. And when a person is not able to do one of those abilities, Houston, we have a problem. And we didn't substitute touches with voice recognition, voice control. So this has been mentioned by Glaffira in the previous speaker. Last year was a record year for lawsuits related to accessibility, and that translates roughly to 10 lawsuits per day. And the way I see that organizations are pushed to improve accessibility by two drivers. The one is the law, and the second is the personal motives by individuals in those organizations, and that's what the survey also says. Cool, let's continue. So Vinted was also motivated by the law and individuals within the organization, and from if we add this maturity benchmark, we move from non-existing to reactive. And in terms of internal people motivations, we had a nice luck with our X-Week. X-Week is this event that is happening each quarter, at the end of each quarter, where people from different functions, people of different roles are able to spend the whole week on improving something outside their work, on something what they're passionate about or interested in. And during one of the X weeks, these nice people were able to do a high-level audit of our accessibility in Vinted. So we could see a scope, a size of a problem. Maybe one of the outcomes was we were not aware where to start, what's more important, how to prioritize. So we went for external vendor audit, which gave us a very deep and large audit. And they found a lot of issues, 3 zeros. Although with each single issue, they provided us with a solution, a proposal for a fix. But again, we went in the same issue where to start, how to prioritize, what is more important. So this is how looks our prioritization. I hate bullet points, but roughly every single criteria has a definition. So we focused on the blockers and critical and serious ones, and put the moderate and minors a bit aside for the next stage. And we focused on the main user workflow, on the main features of the app. Cool. So the next step was to assemble a virtual team. This was, I think, the first time in the Vinted when we created a temporal team out of experts from other teams. There were people who were invited, and there were people who wanted to join this team. And these are those nice people. So V is for Vytautas A is for Eglė, K is for Katrina. I'm inviting you to update your intranet profiles. Yeah, and these people managed to fix the issues, and that should look like this. Can you press play? I'm not sure if there will be sound, but maybe that's good that we can hear. If there are people with who are experts in accessibility, they will see that this is improvable. But cool. And the another nice thing that it works in a multi-language straight away. And in the way we think that we fixed core issues. And validation is in our heart at Vinted. At this moment, we are trying to recruit people, actual people with visual impairments to validate this thing. Doesn't change. Oh, cool. So that was a first bucket or a batch of issues that we were able to fix. And the next large buckets are large bucket of issues are colors and contrasts. It is helped by our design team to review all the gray shades we own. There are a bit too much, and many of those are inaccessible, unfortunately. But we are on a track to try it, to try the new theme. Again, we will try to validate it as well. Not jumping to other things, but related to colors, we already have this feature that we are able to predict the color of item that members are making a photo. So if person has some barriers with identifying colors, so our app is able to help with choosing colors. Cool. Then jumping to not jumping to other topic, but talking about cool stuff. If you haven't seen the Airbnb latest update announcement about the new features, I am inviting you to see. There are a lot of accessibility topics. I like one especially where people are able to filter the accessible places with, based on their needs, which leads to another thing that in couple of markets, put-up points, the pick-up and drop-off points are also being regulated. In some markets, they have to meet certain requirements. So I hope that's just a matter of time when we will be able to display that to our members. Cool stuff. All right. I fast forward maybe a bit to the future and how Vinted can go from reactive to more a better stage of maturity. One of the ways is to wait for another lawsuit and react on it, and then accessibility will improve when we will fix it. And so another way is adding a new perspective. This topic might require another session, and I will try to oversimplify this. It's being talked by Microsoft and IBM about inclusive design. In other words, adding new perspectives. So how it would look in oversimplified version is that it would be wrong to assume that a single function or single role should be responsible for accessibility. And the way we currently work in Vinted we only need to add small adjustments to our current process. We don't need to create a new processes. So product designers are already using design system components. So we are working to make them accessible. Product designers are already preparing annotations for copywriters. So it's just additional annotations and reading order focus, those labeling stuff. We have already run a test with copywriting, and the process looks the same. Maybe copywriters would need a bigger scope of the flow to review. Development would receive a handoff from product design and also could start using linters. Development is already using linters, would be additional accessibility linters. For quality assurance deeper into the details, what can be done. With the research, we're doing all of the stuff, so adding a new perspective. The last one is similar to SUS, the system usability scales, so it would be accessibility scale. For a help center, we can create a dedicated page, which, by the way, is already required by EU. And the accessibility statement is a dedicated page where people can submit complaints and suggestions. They can be informed about what assistive technologies are being supported, what issues we are aware already, and etc. And of course, customer support. And within Vinted, we currently are tagging all single customer support ticket. Then we make a clusters, and then we can solve those problems. So it just needs another tag in a way. And yeah, to learn how to talk with people with different disabilities. Well, yeah, I think that will be the last slide. And my advice is to stay curious, keep learning, and keep growing. Thank you.
Thank you, Alius. If you have any questions, again, go ahead and jot them down on YouTube or just raise your hand. One question that came to my mind was about when you were talking about colors. I can imagine that designers care a lot about making things look beautiful, right? So is there any conflict in making things accessible and making things look beautiful?
Oh, that's a good question. So I'll answer not directly, but related, that's a challenge to find something functional and also beautiful, so that people with different imperatives would benefit and people without disabilities would not lose anything in the way.
Did you experience any such conflicts while you're making changes at Vinted?
Not yet, I guess. I will think a minute or a second. We haven't. It's all on the positive side.
Okay, sounds good. Do we have any more questions? Okay, thanks, Alius.
Thank you for listening.
And now let me introduce the third speaker. Jurij, welcome to the stage.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Oh, okay, I can hear myself. Alius, where is Alius? I'm sorry, I know I have a title of senior test engineer, but I won't provide more on testing. That's not the case. I will be speaking about different things. So, hello everyone. My name is Jurij. I work in Devbridge. I'm a team lead senior test engineer. I do have managerial activities and I also partly in testing. So my background is testing, and when I started to dig into accessibility, I had to learn some basics of front-end development, of design, but my background is still in testing. Sometimes I help people to set the strategy for the project. Sometimes I do accessibility testing. Sometimes I speak some motivational thing about accessibility. It depends. I need to set a bit of context because we all are from different backgrounds, as I hear from Glaffira and from Alius. So Devbridge is a project company. We are working with many different clients. We have machinery, we have nuclear power plant, we have museum, we have banks, fintech, everything basically. Sometimes projects are changing fast, so usually there are time and money constraints, and under those constraints we should provide maximum quality and maximum accessibility if it's applicable. And for the last year I spent a lot of time working with screen readers, so my focus is a bit there. I am aware that accessibility is much broader, but I will speak today a lot of things about screen reader as well. Let's start. Okay, it's working. In 2017, I was speaking in TestCon. It's a testing conference here in Vilnius, and I was speaking mostly about basics of testing the accessibility for testers. After that, I created the whole course of accessibility testing and management, and I teach it internally in Devbridge Academy for Testers. At that point, I spoke about what did we have there? It's basics of HTML, which tags are there, basics of area, basics of contrast, just general things to raise awareness. It was 4 years ago. By some reason, I spent the whole conference like this. If I click on the video, it's everywhere. I stand like this, probably. The screen was there. The presentation went fine, and then the question started. The question is the scariest part. One of the person asked a very interesting question. He said, "What do you think about the future of accessibility?" That was scary because I wasn't thinking about future of accessibility at all, because I counted myself as a freshman in the accessibility field, and such question comes and I have 1 minute or even less to answer that. So I did like this, I watched again somewhere there, and I said, "I have a dream." It sounded like a quote from 1963, but then I said that most probably, no. It's most probably. I said that in a few years, I really hope I don't need to speak about HTML tags, about color contrast, about browser and screen reader combination, because technologies will be so advanced that everything will be accessible by default. That was my answer. It was accepted. That's fine. The conference ended, and I forgot about it. What is that? May 2018, I was in Austin, Texas. It's a conference called AccessU. Basically, in the United States, there are 2 huge conferences. One is huge, CSUN, it's in LA, and there is one much smaller, but with the same quality. It's Austin. In Austin, it's called AccessU. So we were sitting there. It's the first day of the conference. 200 people, not more, 198 from the United States, and 2 dudes from Europe. One is me, another is Eric Eggert. Eric Eggert, who knows, is a pretty famous guy. He did a lot of web development, a lot of volunteering work for WAI, Web Accessibility Initiative. He's pretty famous in the community. We were sitting there in the beginning. We were eating steaks. It's breakfast. In Texas, they did serve steaks for breakfast. Very interesting. I love that experience. And Sharon is on your left. She's the president of the hosting organization. She's finalizing her keynote. And she was telling, like, "Thank you for coming. There are 4 or 5 beautiful days ahead of us. Let's learn, let's communicate. And I hope in a few years I won't be speaking about HTML tags, browsers combination, color contrast again, because technologies will so advance that everything will be accessible by default." I choked with my steak there, because I tried to Google that phrase. It wasn't there. It wasn't on the internet. I just found myself in a very interesting company. We said absolutely the same thing in the course of like 6 months. After that, after being there, speaking with those people, and after working on accessibility for a few years, I realized that there are a lot of interesting topics, but that they are not written. You cannot find them on the internet. You might not often to hear them in the conferences, but they are circulating in the people's mind. And if you see a person that worked for the long time accessibility, you start to speak about it, and then it appeared that another person has the same approach. So I started to collect those things, and I will share today a few of them. And the main idea why I also want to do that, it's like Alius and Glaffira already said, that the first driver for accessibility are the people. It's the passionate people, starting from Wiki creation, which was written mostly by people who just wanted to contribute somehow, and finishing the domino pizza case. Who is aware about domino pizza case? Well, basically, the accessibility revolution is in the United States started when one guy sued Domino Pizza for not being accessible. He wanted to order pizza on Friday, and there is no way to order that pizza, and it started the whole revolution. And it was a revolution because according to laws, Glaffira mentioned the Section 508. Section 508 covers only public sector, not private, and all the private companies felt that they are secure. They might not do anything, and they will be safe. And Domino Pizza case was the first case when a guy sued private company for not being accessible, and it started the whole avalanche of everything. So the authorities try hard for many years just to cover the public sector, but the main interesting stuff happened in private sector, actually. So it's also about passion and a wish to eat pizza on Friday evening. And what we were thinking with Sharon, I would start to philosophically say, where are we going? 4 years ago, there was no such thing as, there was such thing as AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and stuff like that, but it wasn't so common as it is now. Now, the technologies had already advanced. There are some places when you can see how it works. For example, on the same YouTube, there are automated captioning, automated translation in some cases. It gets better and better each day. But actually, the thing that a lot of people are waiting, most interesting in terms of accessibility, is image recognition, how we should perceive the images. And because currently, sometimes like this, it's getting better. But the main idea of image recognition currently is that you have, let's say your AI did try to recognize the picture, then it being provided to the user, or that value is being written to the file or to the alt description of the HTML text. But it might work well if a user looks, for example, on Pinterest or Instagram or something where there are pictures and you should know what is exactly in the picture. But there are a lot of interesting cases that pictures are used in a metaphorical view. For example, a bank might use such picture for advertising the insurance. It's a visual tool to create a safe family-like mood so that a person would click and go there. But if you run this picture through the image recognition software, it won't make any sense to hear about children playing when it is a link which actually leads to the insurance stuff. So there are interesting future. I believe there is interesting future for image recognition, but probably there are much more people here who knows more than I on artificial intelligence, so we'll stop here. What was bothering our minds back there in 2017? I'm not sure, does it work? It works. So it's how we wanted to question on the whole thing, how screen reader works, why, and how it can do better. The thing that I don't like the mostly is that we have a polarity of two approaches. One is the old approach when a dedicated version of the website was created for people with disabilities. That's like the worst thing that a developer can do in his career. It's create a dedicated version of a page that will be dedicated for people with disabilities. Please never do that. On another pole, we have current approach, which is called universal design. So we have in simplified form, we have HTML structure of the page. Then we have a screen reader who reads the HTML structure and provides for the user the information how the page looks like. All this is part of universal design where the idea is that we create one thing, but in that one thing we create with such practices that it might be used by everyone everywhere. And the whole universal design is a part of social model of disability. Social model of disability is absolutely awesome thing which removed the focus from person who cannot do something to the environment. So social model of disability is saying that we all are fine, we all are okay. It's environment who doesn't let us to do something. But why two poles? Maybe there is some solution that is in between. Maybe if something is there that it's not as lame as dedicated version, but something not like universal design. Because there are actually many questions to screen reader, to the whole technology as it is. I can stack those questions until probably the morning, but we won't sit in here. So what exactly are we doing with screen reader? Are we trying to tell the blind user which design elements are there? Isn't the goal not to speak about design, but to provide for the screen reader user the same experience or the same information that can be read from the pages? Why should screen user care about design at all if we are taking only screen reader users? There are more questions. Is there an efficient way not to force the user with screen reader to go through every single UI element? Because UI elements, they're created for sighted people. Is there any other technology? How can we do it better? Actually, there is. There is an idea how it could be. It might be possible to incorporate the set of APIs that screen reader user would be able to reach the same functionality faster, not going through UI elements. I have an example. The example may be a nonsense, but you got the idea. So if you have a page full of elements, maybe it's worth to incorporate somehow there a call to the API which will return, for example, bank statement much faster than the person with screen reader will go through the headers and searching for that text. As an example, let's not go to the security, to the implementation, but this is just an example. How it will change the industry if we do that? So in that case, for example, backend engineers looks like they will be participating in accessibility as well as the front-end developers and designers. Again, I can put an argument for every argument and go on. There is no conclusion here. It's an open discussion. It's the thing that I heard from many people. And what is most interesting fact, like a game changer in this discussion, that the whole idea of not wanting to go through UI elements and the wish to get information as soon as possible is not coming from me as lazy tester. It actually came from screen reader users. It's screen reader users who want to avoid going through design elements and get the information faster. I haven't seen any ready solution for that one, but this kind of conversation are there in the community. I just want to put it in more heads, so now you will stop sleeping during the nights thinking about this one, if it's possible to incorporate somewhere, somehow. Another interesting thing that I learned from our end users, users who use screen reader, there was a very interesting case. I know a guy, I mean, we all do. I know a guy who is a screen reader user, and once I saw his conversation on Facebook. On Facebook, there was an article written by a web developer, and the web developer was talking about some solution that he did in his job. And while explaining those solutions, he was constantly referring to his blind friend, like, my blind friend does this and that, so that's why we implemented this in such way. The comment under the article was very interesting. It was saying literally, please stop referencing your blind friend. This is very ironic because referencing my blind friend is exactly what I'm doing right now. But what was it about? It's one man opinion is still one man opinion. If you want to do something, you need not one friend, but you need the whole pile of information coming from different sources. I was really glad to see in both Glaffira's and Alius' presentation that they're mentioning service, because in my practice, I'm missing pretty often the people awareness about those sources and how many valuable information they might provide. One of the pretty famous is WebAIM, that it does once a year or once in 2 years maybe, Currently, there is number 9, and it's 1,600 people responded, people with disabilities responding to different questions. And please check it, but not check only the number 9. It works to check number 7, 8, and 9 so that you could see the trend, you could see how things are changing in the community. And, well, the survey is done backwards. So if it's done now, it's about how people behave for the last year. So you can release it today, and from the next month, people will behave differently. So you need to understand the trend and try to forecast how all those lines, how those answers might change in the future. I just show a few examples which helped really us in different projects. For example, from the survey, it can be seen that landmarks are failing as a tools for navigating through the pages. Landmarks are being taught at pretty much every school, every academy as a tool for structure the page in different forms. But according to many people, screen reader users, I read about it, I heard from the users themselves, it's not convenient. By some reason, and I don't know which exactly, landmarks are not the best tool for navigating quickly through the pages. Headings and bypass blocks are much better. Don't overdo landmarks. Back in 2016, it was a hell to test screen readers. So basically, NVDA was built for Firefox, and JAWS was built for EE. That's the two most popular screen readers. Then the Chrome appeared. So users were trying to mix browsers and screen readers. And if you fix something in one place, everything falls apart in another place. Again, from the survey, you can see how everyone is getting on Chrome. And I'm still waiting for how JAWS and NVDA will compete, because one is free, another is more than $1,000, and they are going very closely. I was expect that NVDA goes up and JAWS down, but that's not the case. But they both are moving to Chrome. So basically, you don't need to develop for every possible combination. You need to test on every possible combination. At least in our case, we do not have time for that. We're under money, under budget, under time constraints, so we need to get maximum and reach the biggest auditory with our solution. So we check what is the most popular combination and try to be there, not cover all possible combinations. Another very interesting answer there is about VCake coverage. It appears that a lot of screen reader users have no idea what is VCake. VCake is a term in IT community. There are people who don't want to be there, don't know anything about it, and they have no idea what is VCake coverage. So again, coming back to the Domino Pizza case. So yes, we also use checkers. We use some automation tools for checking the pages, how it works, or what kind of violation do we have. But in general, we don't need blindly to hunt all the bugs that are in the report. So it's all about the main pieces of functionality. If there is a pizza case, so it should be possible to order pizza. If it's a bank, it should be possible to make a transfer to perform a statement. No one cares that there is on the bottom, there is some element that is failing because you are failing VCake. Users out there are mostly on your page because they want to get the function. They want to get what your page does. There are much more. There are mostly numbers. Sometimes they write some conclusions about those numbers, sometimes not, but you can check it. It's a good reading. Does it work? Speaking about VCake, I constantly see this in the practice. So VCake, it's not the project documentation. When we start a new project, we are mostly working on the United States market. So there is a lot of Section 508 and ADA conformance, and mostly it's AA. It's a lot of screen reader usage. And when a person starts to check the VCake for the first time, here we have a project. OK, it requires VCake AA. That's fine. OK, let's open VCake and check what that is. And people get scared usually because VCake is huge. The last version is huge, and you don't know what is there for you, and what is there just because it is there. So usually we ask certain questions ourselves and the client. What exactly are we doing here? Is your system external? Is it internal? Which industry? Who are the end users? If it is internal only, what is the hiring policy? One of the solutions, for example, here is that we have an app that is made for a worker which does maintenance of nuclear power plant. So basically, a person holding the iPad is going to the basement, to the whole corridors, and looking at the checklist on the iPad, checks if everything is fine with pipes, valves, some numbers, and so on. Even if such company falls under public sector and theoretically should be Section 508, which is VCAC AA, a blind person will be never hired for such position. Because it's not a question of discrimination, it's like a question of national security. So you don't need to copy blindly the whole VCAC to every your project. You need to narrow it down to what is needed, which function exactly will be performed on that application, on that page, and so on. We did one interesting thing lately. We had a project when a client was experimented a lot with different functionality. So previously they had Process Unity, they had Salesforce, they had a set of spreadsheets, and it was pretty hard to do their business there. So they asked us to create one page when everything will be in the portal. But since it's their first nice tool to do their business, they didn't know what to do here. And we decided to implement accessibility level, not on the whole project on the same level, but we decided to check the feature exposure. For example, in that portal, there is a customer portal, which is available to everyone, basically. We don't know, we cannot control who will be connected there. So we went with the full VCAC AA with screen reader support there. Then there is administrative part. Administrative part had a bit different front-end elements. So if you have one stable product and you are working on it for a long time, maybe that's not the case for you. But for us, we had a short time when we need to implement a tool for administrative part. And the person who is administrating all this portal, we knew him. He was on the call basically each day. And he said, I don't need it. I'm on his job for a long time. I will be sitting there and don't overdo. Don't spend countless weeks or trying to implement screen reader here because this is my job, this is what I do. So please leave it here. And there is a part which got a mixed approach. So we repeated the same pattern again inside the portal. Inside the portal, we had a huge questionnaire, which is basically 15 different columns with a lot of element inside. If you click on it, there are drawers, there are models, there are a lot of different things. And we went with the same pattern. We defined which, it's not even feature, which parts of the feature are externally faced due to permissions and which parts of the features are for internal stuff only. In some places, we did VCAC AA with full screen reader support. In some places, we did it much smaller. Everyone was happy. It's in the production now. We know from where people with screen reader will be connected, what they will see, and we know that it will be accessible for everyone. And the internal part was not overdone. It was done exactly for one person needs, and if needed, it might be upgraded in the future. It saved us a lot of time, money, and everyone was happy. It's in production for 9 months without any issues now. These are kind of strategical or technical questions that we face in our job, but when you stop doing those technical things and you become a team lead, there are much more difficult stuff to do. You need to speak with people, and it's harder. So people have different perspective on accessibility. And even the same people might have different perspective on accessibility due to different circumstances. For example, there was a case here. It happened not in our company, but for example, my previous colleagues already mentioned about empathy and all these good things. But for example, there are also business-related conversations, and you cannot go with the same stuff to the business-related conversation. Business-related conversations are all about money, and there was a case when a person who was negotiating the contract with one of the vendor, he said like, you need accessibility here because imagine if you lose an eye or 2 eyes. I mean, it sounded like he is going to attack him and take his eye out, and and that's the reason why we should implement screen reader. It's not in our company, but there was such case of that. It's wrong. I mean, it's a context mismatch. You can be very empathic, very human, but when it's a business conversation, you go with numbers. So basically, what should be done in this situation, it's like, if you don't implement screen reader support, you might lose 15% of your auditory, you might lose 15% of revenue, and you might be sued for not being accessible. It should be, the message should be something like that under such circumstances. But in general, yep, accessibility has a very, very empathic aura. On the other hand, it's not the case for everyone, and it's never probably will be. I don't believe that it will be the case for everyone all the time. In my opinion, one of the worst things that happened with accessibility, it's that it was firmly tied to the definition of disability. Now you ask people, what is accessibility? What is your first thing that comes to your mind? It's disability. It's much broader than that. But the aura, disability aura, it takes its toll, and sometimes when you are being advocate of accessibility, when you speak with people, you might see resistance. In some cases, it's fear of aging, trauma, of illness that creates the ignorance. So people said, this is some other world, I'm living in another world, I don't want to go there. But at the same time, if you reverse the same approach to the other side, it might be the driver. I heard people saying, I care about accessibility not because I am empathic, but because from my family history, I know that after 70 years, there is a high probability of me getting blind due to genetic disorder. It's a very powerful, very open statement about a person's motivation. And in my opinion, all these types of motivations are fine. We might agree with some of them, we might not agree with some of them, but as the leaders, as people who speak with people, we need to understand that everyone has their own motivation. And I think as long as it serves our common goal to make IT more accessible, to make the world more accessible, it's fine. Thank you.
Thanks, Yuri. If you have any questions, please raise your hand or put them down. Okay, we already have a couple of questions. One at a time.
So, is future come now or not?
Is the future what?
Come now, or it's still in future?
No, it's much better than 5 years ago. I mean, the future is coming. The station gets better each year. NVDA screen readers are getting better with each update. Every browser has updates. Front-end frameworks, like, I don't know, the project I showed is AG-Grid. They are getting better and better. In the last project, we had a huge can of bugs that we could not resolve just because in the course of 5 months, they will all resolved automatically just because everyone releasing the updates each month and it being resolved just by itself. We are going in the good future, I believe.
Thank you. Look, I had a question actually.
Sure.
So you talked about tools, screen readers, and you told us that one of them is completely free, and one of them costs $1,000. Did I understand?
$1,200.
Well, I just wanted to check if that's correct, and then if I understand correctly, that's for a single user, right?
Yes.
That just shows the importance of.
The only thing why I'm not sure why it is still there with such price, but I believe that in some countries there are programs which provides such kind of tools to people, because otherwise I have no idea how it can share the market together with free tool which works the same way.
Yeah. One other question that came to my mind while listening to your presentation, you talked about screen readers and that there will be software that will allow you to interact with software via APIs, right?
Yep.
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is a thing like Siri. How is Siri related to what you've talked about?
That's the most probable way it can work. It most probably won't be resolved not only with screen reader and not some links to the API calls on the screen, but it will be other tools that will come into the scene.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. We have one more question.
So the question is about how cheaper or better to develop sites to make separate page for people with accessibility, or to extend current functionality and to make it fit accessibility.
I had a couple of cases in my practice where it was impossible to extend already built solution to be completely accessible. It was cheaper to rewrite everything from the scratch. You can create additional version quite easily, but no one will use it, and you will be not liked by the community.
So I mean that we have two different designs for iOS and for Android. So different experience of people who use it. And the same I think we have for people who can see different colors. Yeah, for girls, for boys, and for those who don't see a difference between black and white. So when we have site version, we have different languages, for example, and it will be /English, /French, Russian, and so on. So is there some practices to do the same, but for accessibility? Because there are totally different approach for getting information. It's not in pop-ups, it's not in colors, it's not in images. It's totally in data.
Different markets? The first, why do you have such different versions at all?
I think this sounds to me like a discussion you can continue after we're done with our questions. Yeah, we have one more question.
So I just want to ask you, you mentioned that, yeah, there is a problem with accessibility that companies do not face any consequences. They just avoid that, and only public sector has to respond to the law, right?
Yes.
So what could be done actually to, I don't know, to speed up this process that companies should respond, that companies must face the consequences because users cannot use the website. And that's not only the website I care about. You know, technologies that let people to create software and do programming stuff, also the tools should be accessible as well. Because, you know, all the JetBrains, right? And other famous companies, they're just not accessible. And me as a developer, I cannot do anything alone. So how could I speed up this process?
I can speak for, in the United States, actually, the fear of being sued looks like is the main driver, because after, initially, only the public sector was covered. After the Motivators case, the cases against the private companies just raised exponentially. They are rising each year because there is a precedent. And this is how the court system works in the United States. In Europe, I don't remember number from Glaffira site. I guess it was 2025. It will be mandatory, but I'm not sure how it will be here, because in the Europe Union there is no such practice of extensive laws and due to each reason, due to each argument, as it is there in the United States. Europe lives in a bit different way, and I'm not sure what will be the driver in Europe. Will be there cases? I don't know. I'm waiting for more strict European regulation as well, because I'm curious what will happen here. But in the United States, it was Domino Pizza case who started the whole revolution, and now it now goes pretty quickly everywhere.
So maybe we should complain all the time and they will...
Maybe that's the case.
Okay, first of all, I would like to thank you for your really interesting presentation, as I'm a screen reader user myself, so it was some aspect really interesting. My question would be somehow specific to Devbridge. Previously, you mentioned that you have a course in Devbridge Academy about accessibility. Sometime a year ago, maybe, or a few years, I tried to pass the test for getting into Devbridge Academy for backend. As a screen reader user, I faced with really serious problems when trying to solve a test, because it is placed with a type form builder, and as I have found out, it was not really accessible with screen reader. It seems, for example, navigating via questions or trying to choose an option, it was not that easy to do. So maybe something like a philosophical question, but have you ever heard about it or even tested how these Devbridge forms are inaccessible, and maybe are there any plans to make them better?
Thank you for feedback. No, this is our fail. There are too much things happening at the same time in Devbridge, and so probably we just missed that. Sorry for that.
Thank you. This is all. Thank you again.
Thank you.
If you have any more questions, please ask them directly after this meetup. That's it for today. Thanks again to all the speakers. Thank you everyone for coming. Thanks to everyone who's watching us online. We have a bunch of other meetups coming up. So this is the last meetup this year, but we have some nice meetups coming up next year. So in January, we have the one with politics. So this is one I personally am quite interested in, because I think that office politics is a topic that is rarely discussed. So I just think it's going to be an interesting topic to dive into. Then in February, we have the one with first-time managers. In March, the one with equity. And in April, the one with stakeholders. And we have already planned the meetup for May, but we don't have a topic for that one yet. So if you're interested in speaking in any of these meetups, don't hesitate to email me at mindaugas@vinted.com. So thanks again, everyone. And for those of you who are here in the office, I invite you to stay, enjoy the drinks and snacks, and to see you in the next Vilnius Tech Leads.